Welcome everybody to another in our series of Welcome the Arranger. They're coming thick and fast now. It's wonderful. And Fiona Lander, welcome to you. How are you today?
Hello, Ray. Good morning. It's
Oh,
great to be here.
we're really excited to have you on board. Your approach to all this is very different yet again, and you've written some wonderful pieces, some original works as well, and arrangements, and we look forward to hearing them as the year unfolds. But this is about you and how you got to where you are today. So I'll
hmm
start with that question that everyone gets, and it is: do you have a really interesting original musical experience from when you were tiny?
Oh, right. Well, yes, I think I do. I think one of the most sort of one of the things that sticks in my head from when I was at first school here in Northumberland was playing the recorder in the assemblies. It was a very musical. I had a great music teacher. And I remember, and I've probably still got the music somewhere under the bed, music teacher, had put together an A to Z of composers. And we performed each letter of the alphabet every day of the week or the month, depending on how long it took.
Wow.
And yeah, and I think that was an amazing exposure to composers and brilliant music, memorable music from a really early age. And I'd play the recorder with other class members on guitars and percussion, and that was a really extraordinary thing looking back to have been part of. But it's stuck with me, and I think that's been a huge sort of starting point of my.
Wow. But I mean, this is so. This is by this time you had learned the recorder well enough to play pieces by
Yes.
many composers. So
Okay. So yes, I would have been probably 7 or 8. Seven,
that's
eight, nine.
amazing. Can I take you even further back to your
Okay.
first recollection of discovering that music was a thing? You know what I'm trying to say with that early kind of, when you maybe heard a record for the first time. I'm talking about 3 and 4 years old. Was that first thing that hit you? Said, "Oh, what's that sound?" Or
No, I can't think that far back, Craig, to be perfectly honest. But I'm guessing that before I was learning the recorder, I would have been bashing on the piano with my dad because he was a jazz piano player, still is.
was
Uh,
he? Oh, great.
Absolutely, he's 81, and he still goes every Tuesday night to band practice and plays jazz in Newcastle in the social club, which is tonight. So he's going. So I think I would have probably been tinkling on the ivories with him at some point, but I really can't remember that as far back as being 3 or 4. I'm sorry.
Our dad used to play a sort of boogie woogie on the piano to us as we went to sleep. Did you remember listening to your dad playing? As
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was.
what sort of tunes would he play then?
Oh well, he wouldn't read. Although he loved Chopin, he wouldn't really. He wasn't a very good reader, so everything was improvised. So he
Yeah,
would
I'm
play.
talking about the jazz. What sort of jazz tunes would you have?
Yeah, same. So your Basin Street Blues and your some boogie woogie, but it was more the swing stuff for him and the early jazz, which has stuck with me big time, big time.
That's
I grew up with all the greats in the house. So Duke Ellington, Oscar Peterson, Count Basie, Lionel Hampton, you name it, Lester Young, all the Sonny Rollins. I've grown up with that all the time in the house. So that's bound to have had a huge impact on me.
that's beautiful. I wonder if there's echoes of that in your gospel warm up
Yeah,
that you that
definitely.
you that you've put on.
Lots and lots. Yeah.
Ah, lovely. So early, you've told us about your group, your recorder playing early on in your life at
Yes, the thing.
primary school. Was there some singing then as well? Was there singing in assembly or singing
Yeah.
in choir or something? And do you remember the song that you did at school? Maybe way back.
Uh, I would have sung at primary school, but I think I remember singing in schools more when I went to middle school. We have the three-tier system up here still, in a few places. So the middle school when that's 9 to 13 age group. So I went up to middle school, and the music teacher was just as good, if not better, which was incredibly lucky for me. He happened to be a professional jazz piano player as well, so I was getting it from two different angles, at school and at home. But he was brilliant at choir, at leading choirs as well. So he had a boys' choir, he had a school choir. And I remember singing in the choir with him. Can't think anything particularly.
But great influences from an early age.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. So lucky.
It sounds like your school life and your home life was kind of infused with music at every turn.
Yes, every turn.
Do you
And there
remember?
was,
Okay, was there a record that you owned earlier? Was there? I'm talking vinyl. Am I talking cassette? Am I talking early CDs? What am I talking in terms of how you accessed music? Was it radio? When you
yeah.
listened yourself to,
Well, I mean, I listened to the charts like, any teenager would. So I'd record, record the top 40. Did you do that?
guilty, full
On my
time on a
cassette
Sunday, yeah.
I've got a cassette player in here somewhere because we still listen to tapes, of ideas that we've created as we've gone through the years. Yeah, but quite a lot of vinyl. So I think my very first album was Dexy's Midnight Runners.
Oh, very cool.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, 80s is.
Well, quite cool. I think mine was the Wombles, so you definitely outcool me there. Yeah, Dexys, very good. Lots of denim. Did you wear denim as well?
Yeah, definitely. But that gave me a little bit of probably without realizing it, a little bit of the early folk influence with the fiddles going on there. Because I've kind of come to folk music later, but looking back, there were things that probably triggered in my mind and in my heart without realizing it. So when I went to college, I was listening to things like the Cause and really loving that, and that Irish influence. Although I wasn't writing anything very folky, it was definitely I was drawn to that. So the jazz and the folk, and then of course I studied classical music at college.
So you're talking about college there. Let's draw you back to senior school.
Okay.
You had middle school and you went to senior school. They're 3 different schools, are they?
3 different schools, yes.
So,
yes.
Was there a teacher who you were lucky with your early teachers? Was there a teacher at senior school that also took you up and got you and kind of, led you into other areas and inspired you?
Yeah, well, I think all 3 levels that I could say were equally inspirational. So, I mean, how lucky is that? Terry Atkinson was my head of music. Sadly, he passed away, early in life, which was just devastating. But he touched so many people, so many students. Still talk about him. He was a legend. Yeah, you get these, don't you, at senior school or any school. He just gave me so many opportunities, and I remember studying. Well, it was O-level music in those days, and A-level music. There were 3 of us in the class, and remember just being in the back room of what's called the Hydro building, this very old Victorian building, and listening to classical symphonies and works for the first time and being just completely bowled over by it. So, your Brahms Requiem and Dvorak's Symphony No. 7, and I was just knocked out by the emotions I was feeling, and I was just so into it. I couldn't get enough. So every opportunity, the choir, sang in the madrigal group. That was really, really brilliant. Having the experience as a teenager, a later teenager, singing in a close harmony group. So there was a few staff members in there, which helped, with the bass parts and what have you. But it was a mixed group of maybe 8 or 10 of us, and we were singing Hey Nonny Nonny No, Fairest Flora, Flowers, and madrigals, English madrigals, Burns songs, Northumbrian tunes, and I mean, what a great opportunity, and being part of
you can see where this was all leading. A love of harmony singing,
and being with others, and
that community aspect to the whole thing, very important.
It stays with you, doesn't it?
So tell us how did you decide on your next step, which university or college to go to, and was there some involvement from the school there, or did you find your own way? How did that work out?
Yeah, well, I was absolutely fixed on being a clarinetist. So I got my grade 8 quite early, and then continued with piano, started learning the sax and get a few more grades. And I thought, right, I'm going to try and go and become an orchestral player, yeah, on the clarinet. I was really that keen. So I did auditions at Royal Academy, the Royal College of Music, Trinity, Guildhall. And you can imagine a clarinetist, for goodness sake, crikey, the level has just got to be so high. It raised my game because it made me work very hard. I did the auditions and I loved, I can remember the experiences of going to the auditions in London. That was like a big thing for me from little country living here. So I didn't get into anywhere apart from Trinity. They did offer me a place. But I also, at the same time, wanted to keep my options open. So I had interviews at Colchester Institute, who was doing a music degree, and I got accepted there as well. So it was going to be between Trinity College in London and Colchester, and I loved the feel of Colchester, so that's where I went, and I've never looked back.
And so you went as an instrumentalist. Did you play other wind as well? Did you do the full range, or just was it clarinet? Because a lot of players.
No, it was just clarinet with a little bit of sax maybe, but yeah, you had to have a second instrument, which for me was piano, and the singing was just something I did alongside that.
Yeah.
But when I got there, you get the choice in your first year to sort of major in certain things.
Yes.
So the composition thing came through that, and I just was exposed to Alan Bullard. And, we hit it off. What a lovely guy he is. Yeah. Hugely inspirational chap. And I started moving in that direction. I started moving from the clarinet sort of performing point of view, although I did do a lot of that while I was there. And I got a diploma on clarinet at Guildhall while I was at college. So that was great. That was sort of another year of something I did. Just keep your hand in, isn't it? It's constant. Trying different things, you've just got to grab these opportunities while you can. You've
been fortunate to have a lot of really good mentors, and can you name some way in which Alan, as a great composer himself, centered on you and treated you differently and encouraged you in certain aspects of composition?
Well, he was great because he gave composers opportunities within the college, so through competitions. So he would set that up. He would also give, I remember in the Swinburne Hall, which was the concert hall, he would have lunchtime concerts set up, and people who wrote music were able to then expose their music for the first time, and that was exciting, really exciting. So any of us that were arranging or composing things would be able to have an audience, and blimey, people did support. And then he would play the piano, and he's just such a terrific accompanist. He would accompany somebody playing one of my pieces, clarinet, quite high level clarinet piece, for example. But you wouldn't get that much contact time, which was a shame. I wanted more of him. So I went to lectures, and he would talk to everybody in the same way. And then you'd have like little sort of small bursts while he was mentoring you through compositional pieces and processes. And I just, the sessions just weren't long enough for me. I think I wanted to just have more of that. But he did a really interesting sort of sessions on copyright and licensing and that kind of thing. And that was my very first sort of dib in to that kind of thing. And I thought, I think I need to learn about this. Really interesting. And I thought, what you're talking about. This is very interesting. So
that's so good. Can you think of remember a composition of yours, maybe the first composition you had performed at Colchester, maybe in a lunchtime concert or somewhere that was a special occasion for you?
Yes, definitely. I did an arrangement of Who Killed Cock Robin.
All right.
So the nursery rhyme, as you know it, but I did it for I think about 8-part choir, unaccompanied choir, so like a chamber choir. Yeah, and we had a chamber choir, so I was able to rehearse it with the college chamber choir, and then it was performed in front of Ursula Vaughan-Williams, because she was the composition adjudicator of the competition at the end of the year. And I didn't win, but she was absolutely thrilled with it and highly commended me and spoke to me afterwards, and she thought it was wonderful. So that was quite a night. Yeah.
Well, that's great. So you were encouraged by Ursula Vaughan-Williams, no less, which what an amazing person to have adjudicate your first composition. And presumably that inspired you to go on to write more at college.
It
Were there
did.
any other successes that happened then?
Well, yes, they have had an annual carol competition, and and my first sort of festive composition, after I've since gone on to do lots of Christmassy things, but I wrote an arrangement of We Three Kings of Orient Are in a kind of sort of poppy contemporary upbeat style in
Sounds
four,
great.
four time, not 3/4. So it's a 4-part choir. I wrote it for the college choir, which was massive. There's about
Is this on ChoirCommunity?
not yet because it's not Christmas. I thought I'd save it.
Well, you'd be surprised how soon we have to work on that. So come June, July, we're thinking of Christmas and getting it all ready. So
It's waiting in the wings,
thank
Craig.
you. Right.
Yeah, so
We'd like, yes, we'll talk.
SATV plus
Sounds
piano,
great.
and it had piano, bass, and drums, but it doesn't have to have bass and drums. That was just because it was.
Anyway, sorry, I've interrupted the story. Carry on.
Yeah, so I wrote this, entered it, and it won. So it won the college carol competition one of the years I was there, and I conducted it. I think I conducted it, yes, or maybe I played. I think I played the piano, and Bill Tamblin, he conducted it. That's right. But the choir was like, it was probably 120 singing. I mean, how wonderful to have that amount of people with men as well. You can tell I'm deprived of male singers up here, can't you?
Are you? Oh. What is
So
it?
anyway,
The air or the mountains? Where are they all?
they're out there. They're out there. I think.
Are they playing brass instruments or doing something else?
Rugby?
Rugby.
Rugby and rowing. There's a lot of rowing.
Going to watch the football because I gather Newcastle have got a bit of cash now.
Yes, things have changed slightly. I'm not really into football myself.
Don't worry. Yes, let's move back to music and your arrangements. I've had a couple of sort of near misses with competitions, but not great success. And so I'm fascinated to hear how do you write something that does well in a competition? You've obviously got the right approach there.
I don't know. Just I like it. I like everybody to enjoy what they're singing. I think that's the important thing. I wouldn't just have a filler line just to get the harmony filled out. I think it's important to give everybody something that they look forward to singing, and not just at the beginning, but right through the piece.
That's a great thing to see. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Make the lines interesting. The horizontal, the journey through the piece got to be interesting for everybody.
Yeah, but also giving them a bit of a challenge. I like to give people a challenge. You don't want anything too simple. But I mean that carol, for example, the basses just loved it because they were imitating a walking bass, a boom 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 boom, and men love to do that kind of thing. So, Star of Wonder, Star of Light, Star of Royal, catchy, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Name me another very different piece that you might have written for a competition. I mean, anyone can go to your website and read about it. So I encourage people to go and see your own website where you have other things and your biography.
Yeah, sure. I wrote something a little bit more wacky during lockdown, just because we all had a bit more time to play, I suppose. And my compositional process generally starts in this room here, this studio, with Cubase. And I get the mic and set the mic up, and I get ideas and then I try them out. So if it doesn't work for me singable, I just discard it straight. It's got to be singable, yeah. So that's my process, really, from a compositional point of view. So I wrote this new piece which was wordless, called Transmission, having been affected by lockdown and all this virus going on, pandemic. And there was a composition, the very first composition competition, set up by Voices of Hope, who are a Newcastle-based chamber choir. A wonderful group of singers who've really inspired me in the last few years. And I thought, well, I know what they sound like. I know how they work. I had them in my head when I wrote the piece. So it was for chamber choir in up to 8 parts, really, 4 to 8 parts. And so I entered it into the competition, and it didn't win, Craig, so there you go. But it was shortlisted out of 250 in the top 8, I think, by Will Todd. So I was really, really encouraged by that, and I was quite not knocked out actually, because I chucked it their way thinking it wasn't very wonderful, and I sent in a kind of an audio recording of me, and I didn't even have the men's parts recorded, by men, and so it was like, oh, they're not going to really get a feel for this. Anyway, they thought it was obviously worthy of shortlisting. So I got hugely inspired and encouraged by that. And then another competition came up, and I thought, well, I'm just going to send it in. And it didn't win either, but it was shortlisted, and it was an international competition set up by Airco, which is based in Italy, and they do these annual competitions. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, and they're just trying to promote choral composers to create music for all different sorts of children's choirs, adult choirs. They have a different focus, I think, every year. So on Christmas night, and I'm not joking, on Christmas night at about 8 o'clock, I got an email to say, congratulations, your piece Transmission has been selected to be performed by the Moscow Chamber Choir in January 2021, and it will be performed and recorded, and we will send you a recording. And so well done for that. So, I mean, that was thrilling.
And can we see that? Is that available to see?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. So I'm not sure. They did a recording and it was really amazing. Yeah, really
I'll
amazing.
get Piers to put the link on when he sends this out, so people can go straight to that. Now, you obviously you've told us all about your education and your wind playing, so clarinet to a high standard. You still teach wind instruments.
Yeah.
When did you start to get involved with community choirs, particularly, and do you still run community choirs yourself?
Yes. So quite recently, actually, I think it all started with a ladies singing group in Tyndale Community. So that started up. There's only 9 of them, so it's a very small little group of ladies, but that divides into 3, 3 and 3, and it is a community choir, but it was a sort of hand-picked, selected group. So I went a little bit to a more higher level, because I wanted them to perform to a good standard, and I had in the back of my mind, I want to record you. So they had to be up for that. So that's where the community choir thing started, and then it grew from there. And I now have a 40-strong proper community choir in Holtwhistle, just along the valley there, and they're lovely. Obviously the standard is very different and you have to pitch things totally differently, and I've recently been working with Tyndale Community Choir because they've commissioned me to write a piece for their 20th anniversary. So the last 2 Mondays I've been actually starting off their rehearsal and teaching my new piece to them, but that's it. I won't see them now till June, and it was just lovely working with a different group of people who I've never worked with before, but it was about 50 of them, so it was a slightly bigger group and more men, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So I'm kind of keen to do more. I'm getting the buzz.
Part of this interview, of course, as you know, is to promote your collection of arrangements that you've put on ChoirCommunity, and to bring people's attention to them. So we've got Amazing Grace. You've got a new tune to Amazing Grace. It's not the tune people know. It's your own tune. It's beautiful. And I think if people didn't know, they should know that it's the 250th anniversary this year of the writing, and next year of the first performance of Amazing Grace by John Newton. I don't know whether they used that tune originally, the well-known tune straight away. There are plenty of tunes available, but yours is gorgeous, and I want to bring people's attention to it. Just why did you decide to do that? Because that's going to be very, very apt in the next couple of years.
I remember walking the dog along the river in the morning. A lot of my ideas come to me out on a walk, and I was thinking, I think I was ready to start something new. I had a space. It was probably a school holiday or something, and that's when things start to emerge, when you haven't got so much going on in your life. And I was thinking, right, I've got a block of time ahead. I want to do something, a new choir arrangement. And I thought I really wanted to be something that is kind of in the public domain, so already out there, so the words familiar, or an arrangement of a tune that people know. And I was just walking along thinking what might be good, and that piece just came into my head, and I thought, yeah, that might be a good one. And then I just got straight, I don't know, the next morning I went out and I started thinking of the words, and then I started singing the main tune in a different way. Got home, started writing it, and off it went. So it wasn't planned, it just came to me.
Well, we can certainly encourage people to program that over the next year or so. Is there anything else you'd like to pick out from your new collection that you want people to particularly have a look at, that you like? What is your favourite of the ones that you've put on?
Well, Singer Song Sixpence I'm particularly proud of, but that would not suit any of the mixed choirs because it's for upper voices only. So that's great fun, and quite often on the clips that Piers puts up, you only get the opening.
That's right. Yeah. Don't give it all away.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, but often the best bits are later on in my pieces. So I urge you to sort of, like, if it starts slow and sort of moody, it's not necessarily going to stay like that. So so go with it. Have a look at the score. Maybe scroll down. What else? Yeah, Simple Things is a classic example of that, where it starts off very, very, very calm and beautiful, but actually there's a real full-on gospel section at the end, and unaccompanied bits, and I think that was suited a community choir brilliantly. But I've only had one sale of it ever, so just because people don't probably realise what it's like apart from that opening section.
Well, because the nature of our site, people can go and listen and look to quite a large chunk of each piece before they decide to get it, which is a great bonus. Is there something else that's not on that list that you're working on? This is the final question. Is there anything you're working on now, or you want to work on, that we can look out for in the future?
Well, I'm hoping a few more Christmassy numbers, because they're sort of waiting in the wings, and so maybe later in the year that'll come through. I love, like you do, I can tell, creating little warm-ups, little short things, and I do quite a lot of those, just going down to choir practice in the car. Do you ever do that? Do you make up things as you're driving to the rehearsals?
Sometimes.
Is your drive not long enough?
Not quite, no, but it's it has. I think it has happened that I've sort of thought of the thing I need to do just 5 minutes before we do it.
I'll have a plan of action, and then it just all goes out the window, and I get this idea of driving down, and then I think, right, we're going to do this. try this. So that often happens. For example, just last month I did something called the January Blues, and I've actually got so much material out of one tiny little song, with not just choirs, but with my piano students and my sax players and my clarinet students. So it's amazing what comes out of just a small little idea in your head. But classical music made fun for singers is something I want to do more with. I don't mean classical choral music. I mean classical instrumental music, perhaps some. So things that people would know, but have fun arranging for voices.
Oh, interesting. Right, I might send you a couple of the words that my choir and I have written during lockdown to well-known tunes. In fact, I was working on one this morning.
Yes.
Yes.
I love doing that. I love setting words to.
We did something called the Zoomerer's Apprentice, which is the Sorcerer's Apprentice, but it's all complaining about Zoom and the woes of being a tenor and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Good.
Right. So we'll have a sharing session next week.
Definitely. I'm just trying to think of anything else. I suppose the other thing is there's a lot of really brilliant songwriters out there. I'm not talking choral classical composers. I'm talking people who not necessarily work with a choir or just create music, create songs, put out albums, that kind of thing. I'd love to sort of expose a few more of them through choir music. Having recently done some choral arrangements to some of our own songwriting pieces with Paul as Lander Mason, I can see how it makes people sit up a little bit and think that's a bit different. So I've already done it with a songwriter, a track that I heard on an album, and I tried it with my choir and they loved it. So I'm thinking, well, all I've got to do is connect with that songwriter and say, would you be happy for me to arrange? Would you like a bit more exposure of your music? And we could take it from there. So I'm thinking, I've got loads of songs that I think would work really well for choirs and that people just haven't heard of.
Well, we
That's
look forward to having them and maybe benefiting from them on Choir Community. Fiona, it's been lovely talking to you. We've run out of time, I'm afraid, but I really need to direct people to go to your own website. There's so much more there to discover. The variety of what you do is astonishing, and your recording experience and writing and all the things you do we're very, very proud and privileged to have you on board. So,
well, I'm delighted to be part of it. It's I feel like I've made lots of very lovely, special new friends already with the other.
Well, all the best with it, and I will see you very soon, hopefully. Next meeting.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Enjoy looking at Fiona's music. Take care. Bye.
Thanks.